Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee out here making a little kindling today. Got lazy letting my kindling bucket burn down, so I'm trying to get caught up here, and thought I'd have a little bit of a chat with you guys with what I've been seeing and some of the things that I've been doing, some things that are concerning me. And growing up in the Great Lakes, and as a kid, that was a big thing when you seen a freighter out on the lake. And I've always been interested in shipping, I guess, and logistics, just for my own personal entertainment. We got the lakes here. We got all the we got the Straits of Mackinac. We got all the big rivers where the big lake freighters go through: St. Mary's River, Sioux Locks, Saginaw River, St. Clair River, and all the Manitou Passage over on Lake Michigan. Just all that stuff has always been interesting to me. So shipping's been interesting to me, and I've been following what's been going on in the Red Sea pretty closely because, again, if anybody that's been on my channel a long time already knows this, but if you're just new to the channel, one of the main reasons that I prep, and I'm a prepper, is a catastrophic disruption of the supply lines. And again, we are having shipping issues now. That part of the world, that Bab el Mandab Strait, a lot of stuff passes through that very narrow corridor. And I also think it's ironic that name, that Bab el Mandab, that actually means the gate of grief. So I find that that's extremely ironic that that's where the world's problems are percolating right now. And I've been following that kind of stuff. And one thing that bothers me about the supply lines in particular is medical. With my medical problems, my wife's medical problems, stuff that's taken place in the last year, I've seen firsthand the shortages in the medical. And a lot of medical stuff and a lot of raw pharmaceuticals and stuff are transported by ships in refrigerated shipping containers, because that stuff has to be, there's environmental concerns with that stuff. They have to be in a specific environment for those things to still be good and still be shipped. Well, stuff that's made in China and India going through that part of the world, again, is in that part of the world where there's conflict and turmoil. A lot of the stuff that we use in the West, it's not just for oil, that part of the world there for transport. It's for a lot of things that most people, I guess, don't think about. And just recently here again, my wife had some complications from her surgery that she had back in December. Took her to the ER. They prescribed some medication, and again, it wasn't available for 48 hours. We had to basically wait to get what she needed. And that was pretty much my experience last year when I had my surgery. So in my opinion, these things have not improved. They're at least no better than what they were. They're just not any better. There's still things that people can't get what you would think that they could get. And watching all the other conflict and stuff that's going on, and watching that slowly ratchet up and escalate. And the weather's been crappy here. I said, you know what? I'm going to take some time, and I'm going to go through, my pantry and my stores and stuff, and clean everything up and organize it. Now, I typically don't do that at the end of January. I typically will do that closer to spring, kind of get ready for this year's garden, and go through some of the things that I need, because it's end of January here. My potatoes that I grew last year are starting to dwindle down, and there was a few things that I thought should be either used or discarded. So I went through all that stuff because the weather's been crappy, can't really do the stuff I want to do outside anyway. So I thought that was a perfect opportunity to start doing that stuff. And I just have an unsettling feeling with everything that has been going on in that part of the world. And I don't believe that the media is what it is, but I don't believe that we are getting, the full story. I've said that before when it came to World War II. They never showed a deceased American service member until a year and a half into the war in any type of media. If anything bad is taking place, average Joe American, average Joe Westerner is going to be the last people to know, unless they're maybe got a little inside information, or they know somebody that's operating or working in those circles. But I just see where things in my mind, are deteriorating. So I figured it was time to do a little shore up what I got and see if there's anything that's lacking. There wasn't much, but I did make a small shopping list that I'm going to tackle here quite shortly. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to mention, just going through my preps. I guess this is just general prepping information that I thought I'd share with you guys. Now, I store water. I've stored water for a long time, but I know a lot of people on YouTube videos and stuff. They rotate water. Every 6 months or whatever, they dump all their water out and they take new water and stuff. I don't do that so much. I clean my jugs good, put water in. Make sure that everything's good to go. And then any water that I use for my stores, I'm going to filter that or purify that before I would use any of that. And that's just the way that I have always done it. I know there's stuff you can get to put in water and whatnot, but I've never had any problems storing my water sort of long term, because everything that I store water-wise always gets put through a filter and gets some type of purification before it's actually used. And another thing that I wanted to mention too, a lot of preppers store stuff in 5-gallon pails, Mylar containers, whatever. Those 5-gallon pails that stuff is stored in can be used for other things other than just hard storing, your hard goods or your food or whatever. If things are really bad, you can pull those Mylar bags and stuff out of there, and you can use those buckets. You can use those to store more water, because water is always a concern. Now, I live here in Michigan, and I actually have a couple of different places where I can get water. A couple places I can get water pretty much year round. I don't even have to do anything with it. But we have other places. We have the lakes, and we have other ways to get water here. So, but I always kept water. When the old timers when they knew a storm or something was coming, they always filled up the bathtub. They filled up all their pots and pans. They always would store a little bit of water in case something froze or something, went bad. Another thing, when I was looking at my, my stores, my pantry and stuff, that I wanted to mention, sugar is important, salt is important, and vinegar are important. I preserve a lot of food, and I would have a hard time doing that if I didn't have those ingredients. And salt, I'm just going to break down real quick here because I thought it was worth mentioning. I have salt that we put on our food and that I used to cook with, your iodized salt, your pink salt, but then I also have my canning salt, and I have my kosher salt that I use to actually preserve and put up stuff. So if I'm, canning chicken or whatever, or I'm making, summer sausage, I have that plain salt there, because you need plain either canning or kosher salt to actually do that right. And another thing that I have is Tender Quick or some type of meat cure. A couple pound bag of that I think is very important to have, so you can go ahead and cure your own meat. And this goes into sugar. Sugar is another thing. If you're going to do a lot of preserving, you're going to need sugar. So sugar, again, is one of those things, because I know I'm probably going to be canning this year. If something happens, I want to have enough sugar here. And sugar is one of those things, too. If you canned or preserved during World War II, they actually gave you more of an allotment in the ration system for sugar. And it's another reason why it's good to be some type of canner, whether it's just, hot water bath canning, or if you go pressure canning route, or you do both like I do. Sugar is very important. And like I said, back during World War II, you were actually you were allowed a lot more sugar if you preserved your own food. And I'm going to add a couple things to that. Honey and molasses are another two things that I like keeping some here, because again, they can be used for ingredients for preservation. Yeast is another thing. I always have quite a bit of yeast here in the freezer. I just store it in the freezer. And if something bad did take place, I would probably whip up a starter. Put some yeast, some water, and a little bit of flour into a mason jar, covered loosely, stir it around, let that start to work, and then I would use that to bake bread. I would take out what I needed, I would add back into it. The only thing with a starter is you have to tend to it. So every day or every couple of days, you have to add stuff into it, take stuff out of it. But if you're baking, bread, every couple of days. That starter, if you do that starter right, you basically have an indefinite supply of yeast, and you don't have to, go and worry about securing that after the fact. Plus, yeast is good for fermenting stuff like cider, like what I did back in the fall. I fermented quite a bit of cider and stuff. Those things. Seasonings are another thing. Any type of seasonings. I can make beans and rice 10 different ways, but if I don't have any seasoning, it ain't going to be very good. So, seasonings are another thing that's important. Couple other things that I noticed too while I was looking at my pantry that I wanted to mention. One is vinegar. Should have several gallons of vinegar, 5% acidity. Everybody should have that in their preps. You can use it for cleaning, but again, for me, it's preserving food. But you should not only have just your regular vinegar, you should also have some organic vinegar where the mother's in it. That way, again, you can kickstart and you can make... you can add that into your homemade stuff to sort of give it the bacteria and the stuff that it needs, the yeast. I don't know all the exact specific terms for all that stuff, but you have that mother in there where you can actually use that to propagate and make yourself more vinegar down the road. So you have that. That's another thing that I think is very important. People should have a fair amount of that kind of stuff. And then just regular consumable stuff, stuff like garbage bags, paper plates, in case you don't have, for some reason, you have to take care of your own sanitation. I actually have, barrels here that I can use for burn barrels. So you got a kind of an idea that where you can, take care of your own waste, because there's just so much packaging and stuff on everything. That stuff, if the garbage, most people don't most people, if there's no garbage man that comes around once a week, that stuff's going to start piling up pretty quick. So that's another thing. People need to keep that in mind, what they're going to do with that stuff. In a burn barrel, that's what the old timers would do. It always would go into a burn barrel. But there's just uncertain things going on right now. I can see the potential for conflict daily, where this could escalate or that could escalate. I'm sure average people aren't being told specifically what's going on. It's a need to know basis, and we don't need to know. That's their mindset. But so we prepare. We always look ahead to the future, and you see where there's deficiencies in those systems that we depend on, and we try to have stop gaps in there, and we try to have more sustainable ways where we can live if something bad does happen. But anyway, I just want to have a little chat with you guys while I'm out here working today, and just kind of bring up those topics, sort of just some basic things that I thought were important to throw out there, the way that things are in the world right now. But anyways, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys got a little information, a little entertainment, something to think about as always out of this video. You guys take care out there.